thank you.
Your microphone is quite glitching out. I'm terribly sorry. I think this is a your end problem. Okay, I still don't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry. You said,
Yo,
okay,
hello,
is that
buddy,
better? And I
what
was
you
able to
doing?
understand that. Dude, I know
Okay.
you've changed skins. I heard your entire conversation downstairs. I'm really trying to teach something here. He's trying to record this. I'm trying to
going
get
on,
some
mate?
educational video gaming going.
Educational, mate. I'm all
Sorry,
about
can
that.
you
Let's go,
understand me?
go.
Amy, shut the fuck up.
Hey, we'll go downstairs. We'll
Hello.
go downstairs. Come on.
Okay. Let's restart, shall we? From the top. Four dimensions is an actual geometric phenomenon. It is not some extra-dimensional space that we see in movies. To begin with, here is a straight line. It is one-dimensional because it only has up and down. Here is two dimensions, as it has up and down and left and right. Now, the second line creates the second dimension because it is perpendicular to the first and does not exist within the already up and down space that the first dimension has created. Now, if I draw a third line that is perpendicular to the other two, it is now forwards and backwards. Forwards and backwards now creates the third dimension that we as human beings can perceive. Now, if I were to draw a fourth dimension on this to create a fourth dimensional space, you would be able to see, you know, how fourth dimensions functions and how it would interact with three dimensions. However, due to the limitations of this video game, as well as limitations of the human ocular cortex, we cannot perceive four dimensions, and instead we can only perceive these three dimensions. Because four dimensions would have to be parallel to all three of these lines and not exist within the space already made by these. One moment, please.
I think his food's ready.
Yeah, me too.
What? Did he put food,
Hi, this is Chris Hansen with Dayline TV.
Alright, terribly sorry about that. But, so,
Okay.
if I were to draw four dimensions, it would have to be perpendicular to all three of these lines and exist in a space that isn't already made. So, you'd probably think the obvious answer is to take this line and draw it straight through the center. We'll pretend that's the center. But no, that is not the case, because this line exists already within the space provided by the three dimensions. So sadly, that is not a fourth dimensional line. But if you could perceive four dimensions, that would be really, really cool, and you would be considered superhuman. Now, let's move on to Flatlanders. Flatlanders are these super amazing people that are two dimensions and can only perceive two dimensions because they are two-dimensional people, like how we are three-dimensional people and can only perceive three dimensions. I have now drawn a two-dimensional plane. This right here is Billy. Billy is two-dimensional. Billy exists on this two-dimensional plane. This right here is a ball. This ball is about to collide with this two-dimensional plane. What does Billy see? As this ball passes through the three-dimensional plane, he will see a small circle. Oh dear God. As this ball passes through the two-dimensional plane, Billy will see a small circle, and then a circle that grows in size, and then slowly shrinks as it passes through the second-dimensional plane. Because Billy can only perceive two dimensions, therefore he can only see the circle, and he can only see the circle instead of the entire sphere.
So basically he can only see like this ring around here. Yes.
Yes. However, of course, this ring exists on every single part of the sphere, and it just shrinks as it goes down, because if you look at a circle, if you look at a sphere, and you can only see the two-dimensional part of it, you see a circle. And that's exactly what Billy sees. Now, we as humans, of course, we humans have three dimensions. Now, if we humans were Billy right here, and we had three-dimensional properties, as we do, we would see this ball, and if this ball was four-dimensional, it would pass through a dimension as a normal ball, and then it would come through as a small ball, get bigger, and then smaller, and then cease to exist, just as Billy, as a two-dimensional being, saw it before.
Okay.
But that is only if the ball is four-dimensional, while we are three-dimensional. Can I erase this? That'd be great. I would like my thing back.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Now, let's move on to four-dimensional shapes. Four-dimensional shapes are my favorite because I do like geometry. Erasing these things are quite complicated because you have to get them at just the right angle.
Yeah.
All right. That's basically all it is. Sorry, Billy. You must cease to exist. This is
No,
a three-dimensional
Billy.
world. All right.
Oh, no.
Oh no,
Okay,
I've been
now that we've
erased.
gotten rid of most of that, I'll just move over here. Okay. Four-dimensional shapes are quite fun. What I have drawn here is a square. This square is 2 dimensions. What I will now do is show you how you can turn a couple of squares into a cube, which is a and a cube, if you weren't already aware, is a 3-dimensional shape. And then one more cube right here. Okay, what I have drawn for you is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. You have a question?
Not really a question, but a statement. I'm gonna get going.
Okay.
Bye.
Please enjoy the rest of your time in our 3-dimensional existence. Good day.
Yes. Have a great time
Yeah,
explaining 4D.
Yes. So, what I've drawn for you exists within a 2-dimensional space. What I can then do is I can then fold this side upwards, same with this, and then turn this side over on top. And I will then create a cube. Imagine a dice, okay? Now, that dice is 3-dimensional, and this is 2-dimensional. We went from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. How can we turn a 3-dimensional net of a tesseract, being a 4-dimensional cube, how can I turn a 3-dimensional net into a 4-dimensional shape? Well, I can easily show you. All we have to do is turn all of these things into cubes. Now, that is going to be a lengthy process, but pretend that all of these squares are just the tops of all of these cubes. But you're probably wondering, oh, that's probably not enough cubes. Because you are correct. We have to add 2 more cubes to this diagram. One on top, and then one right down here. Okay. And now, what we have is 1 cube, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we have 8 cubes that exist within our 3-dimensional net. What we can now do is fold them all in on each other, inside of this cube right here. Oh boy, the drawings are getting rid of themselves. That's not good. Oh well. We can fold all the cubes in on themselves, inside of this center cube, and create what is known as... This is going to take a while to draw, but it's going to be hella cool when I do it.
It's okay, take your time. I can speed it up in the... like editing.
Yeah. Okay. And after we have completed all that 3-dimensional net folding, we end up with this tesseract. For a better example of how tesseracts function, I suggest you go ahead for yourself and Google a tesseract GIF. What you will see is this side. Ooh, I'm going to move my playfield so I don't have to walk around. There we go. What you can do is when you look up this tesseract GIF, is you'll be able to see this side of the inner cube expand outward and replace what used to be. Oh man, there's a limit to the amount of drawings we can have. Well, this inner side will replace this outer side. Okay, while this outer side moves back to this backside, while what was previously the backside then becomes the backside of the inner cube. Now, within this tesseract, you're probably thinking, oh, there's a bunch of 3-dimensional trapezoids, but you are wrong, because of the way 4 dimensions work, and the only way that we could illustrate a 4-dimensional shape of a tesseract, you saw 4-dimensional trapezoids, like this. Okay? You saw this shape, but this shape is actually a cube. It's just that is the best way we can illustrate a 4-dimensional cube inside of a tesseract.
So it doesn't actually like look like that, but we cannot perceive it.
It doesn't look like that. It's just the only way that we as humans can perceive it easy enough is if we draw it like so.
Ah, yes.
Because
yes.
then we'll have this inner cube right here, and blah, blah, blah. Again, I highly suggest for a better visual, you Google Tesseract GIF, because you'll see this side right here of the inner cube expand and come out to this side. Meanwhile, this side rotates back here to then become the outer cube's backside. Meanwhile, the previous outer cube's backside will shrink and move into here. Okay.
Yeah.
What else? There is, we did nets, we did Flatlanders, we did, Klein bottles. Klein bottles are fascinating, okay? I have with me, let's just remove a bit of this. Alright, I have with me a long rectangle. What I will do is I will take this, just because I can't really illustrate it that well, I will curve it into a hollow tube, okay? I will fold it into a hollow tube. But then, on this end right here, I will turn it 180 degrees, okay? I will flip it up here, and then I will attach what used to be this end to this end. I will attach these two ends together, but this end right here will be flipped. That will then create a ring around that then loops, yeah. Okay. This is a horrible way to draw it, but pretend that this face right here comes around, and then flips sides, and then becomes the inside, and then goes around, and then becomes the outside again. That right there is a Mobius strip. Okay? Mobius strips are quite neat because they only have one side and they only have one face. Now, if I were to take two squares, like the ones that I have illustrated here, they each have four sides. If I were to take this side right here and sew it to this side right here, I would then have a longer rectangle with only four sides. Okay? So I've taken two shapes, each together having 8 sides, and then combined those into one shape, only having 4 sides. Now, if I took two Mobius strips, okay? I took two Mobius strips, and I had one of them that was rotated this way, and one of them that was rotated this way, and then I sewed those two together. So I sewed the Mobius strip over here and the Mobius strip over here. This one is rotated this way. This one is rotated this way. So they are oppositely rotated. What I will then do is I will then take the one and only side on this Mobius strip and the one and only side on this Mobius strip and sew them together. What happens when I sew them together? I get a four-dimensional shape known as a Klein bottle, because these Mobius strips are supposed to be 3 dimensions. It's just they're hard to draw because they're only supposed to have one face. Again, I highly recommend you look up what a Mobius strip is for better reference, as well, because I cannot physically illustrate a Klein bottle due to the limitations of this, as well as my drawing capabilities. I highly recommend you look up a Klein bottle. K-L-E-I-N bottle. Klein bottles are fascinating because if you were an ant crawling along a 3-dimensional cube, you were an ant crawling along this cube, you would be crawling along this side and blah blah blah, you'd get over here and then be a drastic change, and now you're on a different side. This is why this is a 6-sided shape. Yeah, this is why this is a 6-sided 3-dimensional shape. Meanwhile, a Klein bottle only has one shape, which is weird. Because if you were an ant crawling along it, and again, I highly recommend you look up what a Klein bottle is, you would see that the Klein bottle has a handle and then the larger base structure. Okay? If you were an ant crawling along this area, if you were an ant crawling along this larger base side, you would see that there's a handle. However, you wouldn't bump into it, because as soon as you walk towards it, you would walk straight through it, because that's how 4 dimensions work. And 4 dimensions are quite bullshit, not gonna lie. Now, in the Klein bottle, there is a hole at the bottom. If you were an ant and you crawled in this hole, you would end up going into the handle. The handle would then take you back around into the other space of the Klein bottle. Now, why does Klein bottle only have one side? Well, because if you were to walk through this handle, you wouldn't change sides, because you would walk straight through it. Why would you walk straight through it? Again, 4-dimensional BS. And that is why if you were an ant crawling along the side of it, you wouldn't have a drastic change, and that is why it only has one side. I feel like I've definitely confused myself in this. However, if you do look up what a Klein bottle looks like, and you understand what I mean by handle and larger space, and then the inner space of said larger space, it should be easy enough to understand. But, what else is there? Klein bottles are fascinating. I suggest you look up other YouTube videos about what Klein bottles are all about, because Klein bottles are fantastic pieces of, I wouldn't say art, but just mathematical beauty, because they're a 4th-dimensional shape that we can easily illustrate in 3 dimensions, but we can't really understand well in 3 dimensions, because you have to understand that that handle doesn't interact Hi. You have to understand that handle does not interact with the larger volume part of it.
And we can't really perceive it in a proper manner.
Yes, we can't perceive it in a proper manner because that handle doesn't intersect. The handle of the Klein bottle does not intersect with the larger open space of the rest of the Klein bottle. Now, one last thing to take away. If you are a two-dimensional being, okay, if you could please stop. If you are a two-dimensional being, you cannot perceive three dimensions because two dimensions can only see, you know, left, right, and left, right, and forward and back. Yes. Okay. If you're a two-dimensional being, you can only perceive these directions, which is why, if I were to draw a three-dimensional shape as such, you can't see all of it because all you can perceive is these two directions. So all you would be able to see is this ring right here, and then however wide this part of it is, which is why if it were to pass through, you would see a circle, and it slowly expand, and then shrink back down. And, of course, we being three-dimensional beings, if we were to see a fourth-dimensional being, we would see this ball. However, as it entered our fourth-dimensional space, or in our three-dimensional space, sorry, if a fourth-dimensional ball were to enter our three-dimensional space, we would see the ball, very small, slowly expand, reach its critical mass point, essentially, its critical length in all three-dimensional directions, and then begin to shrink as it went through our three-dimensional space. Because we can't perceive the fourth dimension, we can't perceive where it is going in that direction. Because in our two-dimensional design, we made the ball go in this direction. It came from here and it went in this direction. Meanwhile, in a three-dimensional space, we could perceive that because we have height. We have height in our dimension. But in a fourth dimension, that exists somewhere else. So that ball could exist within our three dimensions, and we would see all those three dimensions, but we wouldn't see where the ball would go after in its fourth dimension. I think that is going to conclude our lesson. I believe these two are getting quite bored. Thank you so very much for coming along. I have no idea how many people are going to see this. I do hope some people see it. Thank you so very much. I've had a lot of fun. Is
this going on YouTube?
Yes, he's been recording this.
What's your channel called?
Kierkikkeli. Although I will prefer to
be in the vlog. Oh my god!
If you enjoyed this type of experimental content, please make sure to let me know in the comments or by smashing that dislike button. This was leafgamer and Kierkikkeli. Thank you for your patience, and I'll see you next time. Hopefully.